Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked. I am joined by James Kearney. How's it going, James?
Very well, thanks. Very well. How are you?
Yes, good. I'm well. I'm really sorry for those people who were waiting for the 4:30 for this video to start at 4:30. Something came up last minute and had to rejig it for 5 p.m. But we're here anyway, and we are about to get stuck into the Heart of Midlothian 1, Kilmarnock 1 game from the weekend at Tynecastle Park. But of course, I do need to interject with a message from our sponsors. Is your boiler on its last legs? Now's the perfect time for a word about our sponsors. Viessmann, renowned for their exceptional German engineering, is a leader in the boiler industry worldwide. They've now partnered with Scotland's own award-winning installation team, MPH Boilers, for a collaboration that's a match made in Scotland. When it comes to heating, oh dear. When it comes to heating, Viessmann boilers stand out with efficiency and reliability thanks to their advanced technology. And with the local expertise of MPH Boilers, you're guaranteed top-tier installation and service. Together, they're offering an unbeatable deal, a free internet controller with every Viessmann boiler, making it effortless to control your heating. Plus, they're throwing in the first year service for free, ensuring your peace of mind. If you've been thinking about upgrading your boiler, there's never been a better opportunity. With Viessmann's world-class engineering and MPH Boilers award-winning service, your home heating is in the best hands. Viessmann and MPH Boilers, it's a match made in Scotland. Don't wait until it's too cold. Check them out today and step into a warmer, more efficient home. Oh, I'm going to have to ask someone to rewrite that. That's long. And I need to find out how to pronounce Viessmann correctly. But yes, let's get on to Hearts draw with Kilmarnock. So you've watched the game back, James. We were both there on Saturday. What were your kind of brief thoughts? That maybe is there any change of opinion? Anything that stood out from your watch back compared to what you saw on Saturday?
I think that the biggest thing was probably just how much Kelly kind of sucked Hearts into playing the way that they wanted to play the game, like lots of balls bouncing around the midfield, lots of headers, all that kind of stuff. And there wasn't the same sort of control from Hearts that I think we have seen in lots of other games. I mean, Hearts still lost to possession. I think they finished at 60% possession, but it didn't really feel like that when you're watching the game back, just because there's a lot of back and forth. There wasn't really that many sustained periods of possession. And the ones that Hearts did have, which were mostly in the first half, I think there was some poor decision-making going on in the final third as well. I mean, we'll go on to speak, I'm sure, about Macaulay Tate, but he was probably the biggest victim of it in that I felt like he was getting into really strong positions and, making these line-breaking runs forward that you need, because the Kelly back four is basically man for man with Hearts' front four. So you needed someone from midfield to kind of try and get beyond and, make those runs in behind. Tate was doing that and he was doing it really well. But he just didn't really get much of the ball. Like, people didn't really pass him. So that was probably a big disappointment. I think watching it back, that was probably something that I hadn't realised at the time, was that I don't think either was really picked up on it at the game. Although I've seen on Twitter there's a few far more observant people than us where we've posted out our stuff about it and talks about Tate. They were saying, oh yeah, I noticed that at the time. Yeah, it just passed us by. But certainly he was getting into all these great positions, getting in there. And just it was just poor decision making, and I think as well Shankland was maybe guilty of just looking to shoot a lot of the time when he got the ball rather than maybe playing in other players and stuff like that as well. So there were issues for sure.
So there was two instances I remember from the game of Macaulay Tate bombing up, because he can eat up ground really quickly. He can shift. One was something that you mentioned in the article, where it was that one where there's an overload on the left side of Forrest and Tate and Shankland went himself. You can kind of understand that Shankland, he's confident. He's scored so many goals, and we've seen him put one in the top corner from that sort of distance a few times this season. And then the other one was when the team broke quickly, and it ended with George Grant cutting in and having the shot, which was well saved by Will Dennis. And I suppose I'll get into some of the comments very shortly, especially just around what the draw means and kind of look at the future. But something that Graham mentioned, I think it's probably best to going back to the start to begin with. He mentioned that first half for a change was click the right one. First half was decent from Hearts, but we dropped off in the second. Didn't think we'd had any control second half and never really looked like scoring. For me, that was the big one. Was for once we started really, really quickly, and I thought it was a really entertaining start. Kilmarnock offered a wee bit as well, but there was the way that Hearts approached it was really good. There was plenty of energy, tempo, intensity, and the team created chances. I mentioned the one about Grant. The other one where Shanklin cut back for Grant, and obviously the goal again. Shanklin had a loose touch, but the cross was absolutely brilliant for Vargas to score. But then the team just never built on that, and then it wasn't as if they had a lull and then they came back. They just never built on it, and it just ebbed away without Hearts really getting back or finding a second wind.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, the phrase that immediately jumps to mind for me is petering out. It petered out. It started strongly, and it just kind of Scottish TV Gold says there, Kelly goalkeeper didn't have much to do the second half. Like, absolutely, yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that part of I think a big reason of it is the way that Kelly pressed. Like when they first, during the start of the game, Hearts were always trying to build out from the back, including with goal kicks, inviting pressure onto them. Kelly front four of Viessmann, Watkins, Armstrong, Kenny would kind of push up onto Hearts' back four. But there were little gaps that would appear, particularly when Shanklin dropped deep out wide. And Beningame was often free in the middle as well sometimes. But then after the maybe 15, 20 minutes, so Kilmarnock kind of switched on to that. They realised what they were doing. They kind of changed the way they pressed, committed another man slightly further forward, so that'd be centre mid Liam Donnelly. And then when they did that, all of a sudden Hearts' passing options when they were trying to build out from the back became basically zero. They were forced into going long. And then when you go long, obviously you're up against Kelly's back four, which is their centre halves, basically. They're going to win that fight 99 times out of 100. So it meant that Hearts were in this terrible position at that point where if they tried to play it short, they found themselves pressed into oblivion and forced it to go long anyway. And then when they did go long, they just found themselves losing it. So it just meant that there was no kind of sustained bits of control. And then even in times when they did have kind of men forward, centre halves, maybe even inside the Kelly half, they just found themselves getting, playing it side to side, having nowhere to go, and just end up having to retreat all the way back. I mean, there was one incident kind of 5 minutes before half time when, I think I'd say Kent and Kings are maybe about 45, 50 yards from goal, like from the Kelly goal, so they're really far up. The whole team's ahead of them, the whole Kelly team's behind the ball. And the way that Kelly pressed, Hearts ended up going all the way back to the goalie, just like over the period of like 30 odd seconds or so. So, yeah, I think that was a big part of it, was the way that Kelly then changed their press. It meant that Hearts struggled to build out, and then it did become that battle that the Kelly players wanted. It became, there weren't that many chances at either end, to be fair. The game got played in like lots of tight, constricted areas where everyone was rushed. There was no time on the ball whatsoever. And the end result of that was that it just became a big fight in the middle, which is, again, exactly what plays into Kelly's hands. So I think that there will be disappointment from Hearts, of course, that they didn't control the game in the way they like, or they didn't influence the game the way they liked, and they probably didn't play the game the way they liked either. They would have liked to, but at the same time, this is, against a Kelly team who are fourth in the league. They're there on merit. They are exactly the kind of team that Hearts do struggle against. And I think the other things to bear in mind, obviously, is Kelly's excellent record at Tynecastle over the last 5-6 years, whatever it might be. So I think when you take all those facts into consideration, a point's not the worst result. Let's face it, Kelly needed the win more than Hearts, but it was a bit of a damp squib. I think that's fair to say.
Yes, I mean, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of comments where to come in about. I think Ben mentions it. Not a bad result against a strong Kelly side. That should be enough for third. Scottish TV Gold. Kelly, a decent side, have been struggling at home since October 2006. So not a draw, not a total shock. I mean, you look at a few ways. Hearts haven't Hearts have won 4 times in 20 home games, I think it's against Kilmarnock. Now,
It's crazy.
It's crazy, and that should never be the case when Hearts are playing. See if it was winning 4 at home against Rangers and Celtic in 20 games, you're like, man, that should be better. Against Kilmarnock, it should be a hell of a lot better. It's a ridiculous record. And we'll come on later in the week talk about record at St Mirren's not that great either. But yes, it really needs to improve against Kilmarnock. And yes, I think Hearts are positioned now where we really should be beating the team with Liam Polworth and Liam Donnelly as your centre midfield too. But these guys have done really well for Kelly, and Kelly do deserve respect because McInnes has turned them around massively. And you look at the defenders, they kind of played that most of this, certainly the last wee while, just basically having 4 centre backs, and that's allowed. The way they set up allowed them to get the best out of their front 4 effect, essentially, which was basically Armstrong. It just gives Armstrong and Kennedy freedom to just take on their man, get the ball down the line, and then work opportunities to cross the ball at the box. And there must be such a tiring team to play against if you're a centre back because or a full back as well. Because you're constantly going to be put under pressure. You know the ball's going to come in and you need to be in the right position to kind of head it out. The Watkins and Viessmann are a real handful. And I did think there was, individually, I think some players did struggle. I wouldn't go as far as saying Kent struggled, but there was a couple of off moments you wrote about in your piece. The Watkins header, for example, that Xander Clark made a fantastic save from, and then Steppen kind of standing off or maybe not communicating well with Lembikisa for the equalising goal. And then Lembikisa as well, he was frustrating to watch because Matty Kennedy, again, both Kennedy and Armstrong are really good at creating space for them to cut in and whip a cross in. But if I was Lembikisa, you're like, right, Matty Kennedy, yes, he can cross it off both feet, but where's the less danger? Where's less danger? What's his weaker foot? It's down the line. Just show him, just get close, show him down the line. If he puts in a cross from down the line, it's less dangerous than if he's cutting on his stronger foot and whips in a ball where he can get a bit more swing on it, can probably get a bit more accuracy on it as well. So yeah, that was frustrating. Cochrane probably didn't have his best game either, but he was, I think, better than Lembikisa.
Yeah, no, definitely. Lembikisa did struggle. There's no getting around it. Like Kennedy was winning that duel most of the time. I mean, one of the stats I noticed after the game was that Lembikisa was dribbled past 3 times by Kennedy, which maybe doesn't sound like that much. 3 times over the course of 90 minutes, fine. But to put that into context, that's the same amount of times that the entire Kelly team were dribbled past throughout the course of the entire match. So, he wasn't, like you say, he was getting beaten a little too easily on occasion. And like you say, wasn't showing Kennedy down the line when he should have. And yeah, Kennedy and Armstrong, I mean, they were so industrious. We don't have access to like distance covered or anything like that. We don't know like how much ground they covered, but having watched it back, it looked like they covered a hell of a lot of ground over the course of the game. And like you say, they are very difficult opponents to play against, and that they can both cut inside, they can both drift wide, they can both take on their man, they can both hit crosses at either feet. So a difficult opponent. But yeah, Lembikisa certainly not his best game. Cochrane as well on the other side. I don't think, certainly going forward, he struggled to really influence things. Actually, the one time he did manage to get forward was for the goal, for Hearts' goal. He breaks down the left, gets the ball into Shanklin. Shanklin gets to Vargas, Hearts score. But I think a lot of that's probably just because he's probably got one eye quite rightly on Armstrong and making sure he didn't get too many opportunities. Which, to be fair, I think that Armstrong, he did look dangerous and lively on the ball. Of course he did. Barring that he had a shot from about 40 odd yards that almost went in, dipped in. And then he had that cross as well, obviously, for them, that Watkins header right at the end of the first half. Barring that, I don't remember him creating too much. So I think you could say that Cochrane certainly could have offered more going forward, but defensively, he probably did his job.
Did well, yeah. I don't think it was. I would probably maybe been a wee bit harsh on saying it was if I said poor, but no, he wasn't, certainly not the worst defender, and certainly not the worst defender at all. But but yeah, I think Armstrong was the quieter of the two, and I think if you ask Kelly fans, they would say that Kennedy's probably been the more productive, even though. Or the more important, I don't know. I just know the Kelly fans are very high up on Matty Kennedy, and then you look at Armstrong's stats and his numbers, and they're very, very good. But it was interesting that McInnes, just where we were sat at Tynecastle, McInnes spent a lot of his time when Armstrong was on his side, just shouting and telling him to run, basically just run and close down people, which was interesting. But we'll move on to talking about what the result means very shortly. Let's look at some of the positives. What are the positives you take away from this game? I mean, one of the big one was Barry Mackay coming back and being involved. Yes, he wasn't. It kind of didn't. It wasn't on like peak by Barry Mackay, but just seeing him back out on the pitch, and hopefully between now and the end of the season, he stays fit.
No, yeah, it was good seeing him come on, and you're right, he didn't do loads when he came on, but I think the same thing could be said of most players out in the park that day, to be honest, in terms of trying to actually turn the game into Hearts' favour and win the game. To be fair, he was unfortunate, though there was one moment when he maybe could have gotten the score sheet where it was maybe the last 5 minutes or so. It was a situation kind of similar to the one previously we talked about when Shankland hit a shot out from far out when Forrest was totally free out wide. There's another similar situation to that right at the end where I think it was Mackay at the left. I couldn't quite make out who it was. I couldn't quite see his kit number. But it looked a lot like Mackay, and again, it's that similar situation where he'd taken up a great place just out on the left, totally unmarked, because that was the one thing about Kelly's defence, was because of basically these four centre halves, they play extremely narrowly, and there are those little gaps out wide that can be exploited if you get there in time. So he did take up that good position at one point, and maybe should have got the ball and didn't. Fine, but it's undoubtedly a massive plus to see him come back in the squad. I mean, we've spoken a lot about the lack of creativity in midfield at times this season. We've talked a lot about, obviously Scott Fraser's not quite up to speed yet, or for whatever reason Naismith doesn't fancy him at the moment. We know that Grant has good games and he has poor games, and right now
sometimes good performances in the one.
Exactly, yeah, and then we do know that other alternatives are needed in that area of the park. Obviously, in the summer, there's like Spitto and Danda coming in, but until then, somebody's gonna another option wouldn't go amiss, and hopefully that's exactly what Mackay can bring. Whether that be playing that playmaker role in midfield, or even playing out wide and providing a bit more cover for someone like Alan Forrest, for instance, in the event he gets injured. So, really great to see him back. I think another positive would be Macaulay Tate. Both that he got his first start for the club, but always nice to see, and that he, like we touched on earlier, that he was making these great runs as well. That's obviously really encouraging. And I guess the biggest one, on you go.
Yeah, just wanted to come in on two things. Firstly, was just your point about Kelly's four centre backs being really narrow. It was kind of looking at this hindsight. Early on in the game, Naismith was screaming at Forrest because Forrest kept on coming in field, and he kept on picking up central positions. Naismith was screaming. He was just like, ow, ow, and just telling him, just basically, get out on that wing and just stay out on that wing and just stretch them. Because again, that's what you need to do against Kilmarnock, like you said. But on Tate, I think one of the positives, I kind of wrote about it in instant analysis, because having spoken to Naismith before about Tate, I think there was, when he was with the B team, he wanted him to be more assertive, but like when he's shouting, basically kind of take lead in the midfield, tell players where to go, demand the ball. And I noticed that on Saturday. That's something that he was very communicative, which was good. And also that against Kelly, again, we talk about how tough a team Kelly are. He held his own and he got stuck in. So there was a few stray passes, but in the main, I thought it was a positive.
No, exactly. And yeah, like you said, there were a few stray passes where he's maybe overextended his reach a little bit, or tried something that's a little bit too ambitious when something a little simpler would have worked. Or, we talked about obviously that chance that Armstrong swung it in for Watkins for the header, and Clark makes a great save. That all starts with Tate cheaply giving away the ball in a really bad position, in my opinion. So yeah, obviously he's a teenager making his first start. It's not going to be perfect, of course it's not. But no, I thought though he was overall his performance was really encouraging. He probably flagged a little in the second half. Like that's again fair enough. It's his first time playing men's football, and he's also playing against an extremely hard-working team. That's going to happen. But to be honest, the biggest one, I guess, is probably the big. When you kind of take a step back and look at the big picture, I think Derek McInnes pretty much summed up the big positive after the game by saying that, third is basically beyond Kelly now. Like barring a miracle for Kelly and a disaster for Hearts, it seems like it's just about wrapped up. So I guess that would be the big positive, and that obviously if Kelly win that game, all of a sudden the Hearts start looking nervously over their shoulder going into the extremely challenging period of the season where historically they don't do very well.
Yeah,
that's
so just
going to happen now, which is nice.
Just bringing in comments from Liam here, and this is Liam has suffered at the hands of Hearts, so this is where his natural I was going to say pessimism, but realism comes into it, and just had 2 costly points dropped. Now facing having to win on Saturday, a difficult venue, losing the gap becomes 8. We are rotting in the top 6, which Hearts are. Very disappointing weekend. Kelly have County at home, so when they close gap to 10, and streaky Hearts 14 or whatever it was unbeaten now, 1 win and 5. So yeah, it's I'm just seeing if there's and yeah. Again, if Hearts have any ambition of being anything other than a yo-yo side between 3rd and 4th, these are games that need to be won. And yeah, I think that goes back to what we're kind of talking about. The record against Kilmarnock does need to be better for Hearts to get to that next level where they're moving away from kind of looking over the shoulder constantly at teams like Kilmarnock and St Mirren, which really that shouldn't be the case. I disagree with Liam in the fact that he says it was costly points. I don't think it was. Like you said, Derek McInnes pretty much held his hands up and said they're not going to claw back that gap. I just think there's too much. There would be too much to do. It would be a catastrophic collapse. Now, it would basically involve Hearts not winning a game between now and the end of the season.
And Kelly winning basically all of them. Like it reminds me of that bit in The Simpsons when they've got the softball team and Mr. Burns has got this MLS All-Star team essentially to go and come work for them, and he does that bit about, well, 1 terrible accident, I could see that, 2 maybe, but 10, of course not. It's that same thing. It's like Hearts go completely off the rails, maybe. Kelly going on this crazy run, maybe. Both, come on.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's. I think Hearts 3rd place is all but secured. Like I think Graham says, we haven't lost anything. Still 11 points with 7 games left. We'll get 3rd wrapped up soon. And I suppose the last 5 games, that the win over Celtic, draw with Kelly, loss at Ross County, the draw with Hibs, that it kind of shows that the start of the season, I don't think that was a real reflection of what this Hearts team are. And then the massive unbeaten run was maybe not the real reflection either. It's just still a team that's work in progress, still an inconsistent team that, again, still haven't had their best 11 available this season, that there's still a lot of work to be done. It's not perfect. What I would say is, and it's a really good point that I think Liam made and I think Ben made as well. So there's a few comments in here. Yes, this one, Beds. I'm worried we're going to semi with these results because we need confidence boosts and we need to sort out mistakes that will get punished by Rangers. That's definitely the case. And also something that Liam mentioned in an earlier comment, in that really Hearts could do with winning the next 2 games, just to get that feel-good factor going again, but also to help shift tickets as well for the semi-final, to allow fans to go in there with that game with confidence or some positivity. Because mind the semi-final against Rangers League Cup, it was a wee bit just, everything was just really flat. And I know Hearts are a different period now, where back then it was a really poor run of form and there's questions about Naismith's future from the fans. But now the team are a lot more settled. Everything's a bit more settled, but you just need that just wee bit of injection of positivity to go into, get a big crowd, and just have the players feeling like they can finally beat Rangers.
No, yeah, I mean, you're right. Momentum is really important, I think, for these games. I think particularly you don't want to go into a cup semi-final having not won in 7 or 8 matches or something like that. That's obviously a scary thought, But to us, it kind of reminds me a bit of the national team as well at the moment, and the kind of predicament that Steve Clark's in, and that obviously Scotland, the national team, are in poor form in Hearts, but they've got this big thing on the horizon, and now the result, there's been a couple of stumbles along the way, and now it's, people are getting a bit jittery about it, and I get all that, and it's natural, of course it is, but I suppose that, I mean, I think obviously, don't get me wrong, St Mirren away is going to be, that's a tough game, could easily go either way. Wouldn't be a surprise if St Mirren win that. They are good. They are a good team, and it's going to be difficult. But you do think Livy after that, you think like surely to God that's 3 points. Like the way they're playing at the moment, with the greatest respect.
Yeah, it's. I mean, first of all, I think Hearts just go into St Mirren and winning, so it doesn't become 1 win in 6, because again, it just doesn't look great, and you want to. Anytime you lose a game, you want to get back to winning ways, or draw a game or drop points. You want to get back to winning ways as soon as possible. But if we're to lose on Saturday, so third's still wrapped up. It's if we lose at home to Livy, that's when I'll be thinking, this isn't good. But no, it's going to be. We'll obviously dissect the St Mirren game, or preview it, I should say, later on in the week. But it's again, it's going to be another very tough match. I don't think they have the match winners that Kilmarnock do, but they do have the ability to make it very, very difficult for Hearts on Saturday. And again, like Scottish TV Gold says, they are still looking for points to make sure they get into the top 6, but also looking to finish 4th and guarantee European football as well. So we'll leave it there. We will be back some point later on the week to discuss something Hearts related before we come back on Friday and discuss the St Mirren game at the Smisa Stadium at the weekend. But until then, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for watching, supporting, engaging, subscribing, and as Alexander Taylor said, in other news, when is Joe going to be on time for these videos? Frustratingly, we were just about to hit record, bang on 4:30. However, something came up and I had to shoot off very quickly. So I will aim to be better timekeeper later on the week.
You're just like Hearts, just like slow starts, never straight out of the traps. Just takes you too long to get going. Shocking.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I do get going quickly, I just fizzle out very, very quickly as well. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, everyone. And we will see you later on in the week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.